Thanks so much, Julie. I'm so excited to be in this room with all of you, to see all your faces and to listen to Joni with you. And I, I'm a little bit speechless. Um, I want to thank Julie. I want to thank Alice. I want to thank Cecilia. And I would like to thank Jeff Pierce for helping make this event happen. Um, this is a book about the songs of Joni Mitchell in my life and how they've guided and led me as not only as a creative person, but as a human being. It's also a book about being an artist over time. It's a book about it's a book about mentors. It's a book about community and grief and love and finding unexpected love. So uh, that should help you think about this opening together with me. I'm going to read the opening section called Down to You. Uh, it's about a little over 20 minutes long, and I can't wait to eardrop. Like I'm beside myself. It's so, it's, yeah. And to talk together. We did a podcast together a couple of months ago, but I was just telling Con we did see each other's spaces. So it's just, it was one of those programs where it's like talking on the phone, but uh, this is the first time we're going to have an extended conversation together, face to face or side by side. Down to you. The smell of struck nickel came up from the strings. It was already past 4 in the morning. She leaned into the shape of her new guitar, strumming a song she'd been working on. And while it was better to be playing an actual guitar versus her baritone ukulele, something was off. Something about her knuckles. She couldn't make a firm D major chord. Her left hand had to move the way she wanted it to, not since she had polio at 9, when she had to lie perfectly still in bed for weeks to limit the spread of the virus. She contorted her hand on the fingerboard. Every other guitarist she knew to circles could play D major. Why not her? She looked out the window of her Detroit apartment and imagined the voice of her mother, who liked to call her a quitter. The trick was to say no to the face that had mixed up love with control. Where was that face when she reached for the tuning peg and twisted it beyond the expected rotation? Joni says she learned to retune from Eric Anderson, but he'd only suggested open G and D modals, tunings already common among folk and blues musicians. Joni didn't stop there. She didn't stop when the higher strings snapped and flailed, or when someone said that's no way to play the guitar. You're killing the neck. By retuning the instrument to the pitches that felt right, she could play the left-hand shapes that suited her fingers. She opened up the orchestral breadth of the guitar, deepening its bottom range, rewriting the rules of Western musical tradition. But who starts in the clouds? Like any artist, her task was to find a sound that captured how she taught, how the currents of her brain moved, how she held the wine glass in her hand as she walked from one side of the party to the other. Retuning her guitar, audacious, as likening herself to Van Gogh, Picasso, Beethoven, and Shakespeare. Audacious as hiring the musicians and firing them when necessary. How many men would she have to convince? She was on her own in a world of men, straight men, who must have crossed their arms over your chests, leaned back in their chairs, and looked at her with mildly amused contempt. August night, runway lights, playing landing rubber on hot asphalt. Play that. By the time of Gordon Spark, her 6th album, she'd grown tired of playing solo, and so many of the techniques she'd invented on her own were being questioned, challenged, dismissed by school musicians. One night, when she had enough, she taped a sign to the studio door, "No boys allowed," always telling her you can't. before she even had the chance to explore. It killed everything to begin with that fear of failure. The sixth string, the fifth string. When would she think her guitar had taken enough punishment? And those tunings went down through the years, hitting the ears of people along a causeway, atop a skyscraper, in an underground cave. Magic, though there had to be a better word for it. Sorcery? Hello out there, an astronaut, a drug dealer, a pilgrim. So many strangers waiting to be transformed by her songs, though none of them knew that yet. The wind blew through the open window. Tonight, I didn't mind that the Brooklyn trees were stripped of leaves, the light falling on their trunks in buttery gold. My new friend and I were DMing about music, our correspondence becoming more involved once it became clear that we were crazy about the same songs. It would have been too on the nose to talk about Joni, though he must have considered it. Joni was fraught territory. Joni was personal. And as far as questions, what if I was the kind of person who only listened to Blue? What if he dismissed everything before 1976 and believed she'd reached her pinnacle with Gajira? What if I hated the jazz work or else loved it too much and wished she'd done more albums in the vein of Mingus, or maybe with acoustic instruments rather than electronic? What if he believed there was a single, coherent Joni over time and not a village of poets contradicting or at least questioning one another? What if I didn't know an open tuning from a corkscrew? What if he thought the circle game was utter genius? I love the imaginary campfire, the circle game, but haired floaties and cartwheels and being captive on a carousel. It would be very easy to make an ending before there was a beginning. Red flags. Picture a grass slope stabbed with them, snapping in the wind. And if not red flags, polite acknowledgement, bland agreement, then nothing. People could barely look after themselves. No one wanted connection these days. There were already too many reasons for awkwardness, especially on these things we call the acts or the socials. And besides, who didn't love Joni these days? I rarely ran into a person who didn't admit to being a Joni fan or say, my grandmother is a total Joni fan. It came with no risk of bad taste, no chance of sounding a little dim, whether you were queer, straight, black, brown, old, young, an academic, or someone who rung up blueberries and extension cords at the Dollar General on the edge of town. Everyone believed they had a personal stake in Joey's excellence, which wasn't always the story, and certainly not when I was in high school. And my friends listened to Fleetwood Mac's Rumors as if it were the best thing to have arrived on Earth in the form of sound. To admit to loving Joni in the third decade of the third millennium was as fresh as saying you loved ice cream and lakes and storm windows and electric appliances. Instead, Jude wrote to me about P.J. Harvey, the British singer-songwriter, certainly someone springing out of Jodi's lineage, but likely to have her complaints about her, as one inevitably does about one's parents, especially when they take up their fair share of the room with their feelings. I quoted the song When Under Ether from White Chalk, and Jude wrote about PJ taking flair for her piano arrangements on the album, the instrument being a previously unexplored one for her. I find naivete adds to the haunted feeling of the music, he texted. The reviewer got it wrong. Then went on to quote from the piece itself, which was clueless in all the expected risk-averse ways, in that it elevated professional polish over capturing the process of a song coming into being. There wasn't judgment in Jude's tone. He wasn't shaking his fist. It was melancholy puzzlement that some people couldn't see a wonder, when it was looking right at them with an open face. His DM was more essay than casual comment, and by essay, I mean crafted, animated. It had nouns. There was no hint of power in its assessment. Instead, it said, I'm going to show you, friend of spirit, something that you didn't know about music, and maybe you're going to show me what you know too. I didn't reply for days. This wasn't coolness. My heart wasn't hard. In fact, I could be annoyed by acquaintances who behave as if locking one's gates were the inevitable consequence of being out of a long relationship. I wasn't tired, nor was I fully allergic to the cycle of hope, expectation, taming expectation, only to come down to smoke and ash. But honestly, in 11 years of single life, I taught myself in increments, without being fully conscious of it, not to direct all my energy into one person. No small thing for someone who tended to latch. I had many friends, deep friends, casual friends, friends who were more. I had a rich and various and often frenetic life. I could walk into a crowded room by myself and stand at the center, and I didn't even care if anybody came up to talk or not. That inevitably they did because it looked like I didn't need them. I built myself back up from scratch over the course of my 50s, even though others had contributed switches and lumber. I told myself I wasn't lonely, and I believed it, as many as 6 times a day. Why screw up such goodness? Though at the same time, I was astounded that I ended up here. I was walking down Court Street for the 5th time that afternoon, setting myself out for a rather pointless errand for a yellow key cover and near Obro. It exhausted me that, aside from my teaching, so much of my waking life was dependent on my I, that I had to put such effort into parenting this I, keeping this I involved and delighted, when I might have just rather looked at the person sitting in the chair across the room and said, You need something, babe? When I finally wrote him a more involved note on his birthday, I texted, You're so right about that reviewer missing the point. It seems to me that singer-songwriters use amateurism or searching to their advantage. I knew I was actually talking about Joni's methodology, but wasn't ready to go there just yet. Then let out a breath. Just thinking of the dulcimer songs on Blue. By that, I meant Joni was learning the dulcimer as she wrote those songs. The constraint made them great. Later, he told me he'd been biking the mountains of Northern Virginia with his brother, Luke, in the hour of that DM. Bike in the grass, light on his legs and on the backs of his hands. October, coming on Halloween. In the days to come, I found out that he was a neurologist, musician, and writer. Found out that he was a dedicated reader of Shelley, James Tate, Yeats, and Lydia Davis. Found out that after years in Southern California, he'd moved back to Louisiana 18 months into the pandemic to be a doctor in his hometown on the edge of the Atchafalaya Basin, just off the 18-mile bridge through the cypress swamp. But along with the exchange of our histories, he kept coming back to Joni as our orientation point for phrasing, her tunings, her guitar versus her piano songs, her half-baked songs. It felt both transgressive and thrilling to talk about the half-baked songs in such a way that made our disappointment bring us into a deeper form of respect. As to our favorites, it surprised us and didn't, that with few exceptions we shared the same list. The wolf that lives in Lindsay, Down to You, Let the Wind Carry Me, Same Situation, Jericho, Edith and the Kingpin, Rainy Night House, Blue. When we talked more specifically about relationships, the long ones we'd been through, he said he valued sweetness. He said he wanted to be sweet to me. At an earlier point in my life, I might have found a reason to be confused. Sweetness? What other man knew himself well enough, not just to want sweetness, but to say it aloud, without any shame? I had no inclination to be coupled again, but I wanted to get to know him, specifically him. He was very sexy to me, and that scared me. I looked at his FaceTime face, olive eyes, thick beard, soulful expression that I thought of as the face of inquiry, the visible representation of one of Joni's angular chords. Did I say vascular arms? Long back? He looked like he could have come from the 16th century and stepped out of one of the portraits of El Greco, but with a face of affection, curiosity, mischief, blazing intelligence, and light. It could have been Woodstock. Could have been River. Could have been Night Ride Home, Buddhism Marina, the three great stimulants. No apologies. Any of the songs that are relatively straightforward, that move like other people's songs harmonically and melodically. Instead, the first video he sent was Down to You, one of Joni's most demanding songs, one she'd rarely done in concert, probably because it was too difficult to make all its independent moving parts sync up. He didn't perform it for me. That would come a bit later. Instead, in the span of a minute, he offered a little lecture about its architecture, which isn't AABA like many popular songs, the ABA cadenza A. So much goes on in that cadenza, a morphing instrumental passage that takes direction from classical and jazz modalities, the bass note rarely acting as the root of a chord. It isn't the most romantic song. If anything, it is the opposite, in that its narrative considers the inevitable loneliness that comes from sex with strangers, with people you might pick up in a bar after you've had drinks. Joni doesn't overplay that loneliness, though the phrase love is gone punctures the listener. That loss is no longer just personal in the second verse, but societal. A breakdown of connection, a collapse of kindness and warmth, a cautionary take in a collection of songs about freedom, especially sexual freedom. Was Jude like me tired of an ongoing pursuit that seemed significant once, a catching up after being taught by the culture that his sexuality didn't exist, his body didn't exist, and if it did, his longing was depraved, a matter to be policed? Against that, what else was there but to fuck until one's reclaimed gorgeousness again and again? He knew I was a fan of songwriting, but didn't know that I had been a songwriter once, that I'd published music in my late teens and early 20s, that I had once wanted to write work that approached the intricacy of Joni's music. He didn't yet know that I had breathed and drank that desire, that everything else had been an obstacle to me, and that one day I had stopped. Well, if it had been one day, I'd have been kinder to myself and music. A proper morning could have occurred. I could have wrapped music inside a baby blanket, sent that blanket down the river as the voice inside went silent and disappeared among the reeds. I simply became more interested in prose ran. I turned to writing as if it were a new man standing on the opposite bank. I come to think of my paragraphs as the sweet ghosts of my songs. I was a better writer for pulling in what I knew about phrasing, unexpected chordal leaks, shifts in meter, changes in emotional register, the silence between notes. Every writer should begin with another art form, acting, painting, sculpture, and use that as a point of comparison or departure. It was one of the few pronouncements I'd passed along to my writing students, and it was never a lie. But the way I talked about leaving music behind seemed easy, almost cozy, as if I'd simply knocked out a fireplace, pulled up the rotten floorboards in the kitchen, and basked in the sunlight through the windows around the table. I decided to think of myself as a prose writer. I could say, here, I can make something on my own and not have to deal with the complexities of others' egos, the perils that come from collaboration. But it hadn't occurred to me that giving up music was as extreme as moving to the Mojave and giving up water in order to be a better person. I missed the hammering of my fingers, missed taking satisfaction in their strength and reach. I missed worrying about the condition of my voice, whether that granular scratch meant strep throat or just the season of pine pollen. I missed the sense of inhabiting my body that music gave me, locking myself in my neck, thighs, diaphragm, and butt in the manner of an athlete. Missed trying to impress someone by simply singing and playing for them, a practice that somehow took on a life of its own in that my ego dissolved and we were water. Music is water. I understand it to be so, and that it breaks down levels. It equalizes. Once anyone is inside music, there isn't a boss of it. The listener means as much as the players. And we aren't ourselves anymore, not quite, with our usual heaviness and dashed hopes. If anything, it makes us lighter, buoyant, be flowy. Why would I do such a thing to myself? My spirit? People give up children. People leave beloved places behind for their families. People step out of their lives in middle age to care for an ailing parent. People put pleasures aside in order to become activists who help and save others. I gave up the one true thing I had that connected me to people. I'd been lonely as a child, and I brought myself closer to others through music by playing with and for them. I saved my life for music. I gave it up. Jude looked right into the camera, as if he were looking into my face, even though to do so he had to be looking fully at himself, unafraid. With only 2 percussive notes on the piano, I knew he taught himself lesson in survival for me. And as I listened to his turns, holds, and spaces, I heard it as a brand new thing, both of Joey and not. His playing wasn't so much about his ability to get it right, to win it, but to show me all the intricacies that lay inside what I thought I already knew, every detail that was too easy to miss, the song cracking open into a fresh field that wasn't simply one thing, but an oncoming action of colors, stems, petals, and leaves, both browning and coming to life at once. See that violet, that yellow, shepherd's needle, firewheel, obtorch, buttonbush, chicory, cinnamon fern. Maybe I'd never really loved. And if I didn't crash into his arms like the speaker and Amelia, I felt them around me, holding me in place. It was staggering to know that I got myself after all this time, which only made me want to hold him harder, even though he wasn't in the room with me. And now it's just beginning my life.
Is that Mike? Thank you, Paul. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Julie, for finally getting me here.
Oh, okay, we'll navigating.
I had sex with him in Rockwell in the shower last night. His name is appropriate.
Rockwell? Sorry. Just trying to break the ice. Okay.
When morning comes entrance to Morgantown. The merchants roll their awnings down. The milk trucks make their morning round in morning Morgantown. We'll find a table in the shade. Wait, I already screwed up here. So rise up early with the sun. Okay. We'll rise up early with the sun and ride the bus while everyone is yawning and the day is young in morning Morgantown. Morning Morgantown, by your dreams are all around. Morning, any town you name, morning's just the same. We'll find a table in the shade and sip our tea and lemonade and watch the morning on parade in morning Morgantown. Ladies in their rainbow fashions, colored stop and go lights flashing, we'll wink at total strangers passing in morning Morgantown. Morning Morgantown, by your dreams and all around. Morning, any town you name, morning's just the same. I'd like to buy you everything, a wooden bird with painted wings, a window full of colored rings in morning Morgantown. But the only thing I have to give, to make you smile, to win you with, are all the mornings still to live in morning Morgantown. Morning Morgantown, by your dreams and all around. Morning, any town you name, morning's just the same. Morning, just the same. It's so weird. Usually, often I did this, 2-hour length show where I sang 15, 20 of Joni's songs, going from the earliest to the latest, navigating 3 vocal registers. And the afterthought, after they did the first Woodstock Festival in New York in 1984, was, well, am I going to do it in drag? And so, sure, that was an afterthought, simple, long wig, flowy thing. But over time, I got into this character, and now I'm here, but I'm not really in this character, but I'm in that same zone. I'm in the same town where we did it for a summer 25 years ago.
There.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm going to say, I have to retune in a minute. I'm going to save that story for when I retune. Anyway, I am hovering somewhere between character and myself, which is a weird place to be, because for a performer, sometimes there's safety in a character, but there's also great safety and, what's the word? When you're in music, anyway, in the music, what a great place to be, in the music, so. Heard it in the wind last night, sounded like applause. Did you get around resounding for you way up here? Seems like many dim years ago since I heard that face to face, or seen you face to face, though tonight I can feel you here. I get these notes on butterflies and lilac sprays from girls who just have to tell me they saw you somewhere. In some office sits a poet, and he trembles as he sings, and he asks some guy to circulate his soul around. On your mark, red ribbon runner, the caressing rev of motors finely tuned like fancy women in 30s evening gowns. Up the charts, off to the airport, your name's in the news, everything's first class. And the lights go down, and it's just you up there, getting them to feel like that. Remember the days when you used to sit and make up your tunes for love and pour your simple sorrow to the sound hole and your knee. And now you're seen on giant screens and at parties for the press, for people who have slices of you from the company. They toss around your latest golden egg, speculation, well, who's to know if the next one in the nest will glitter for them so. I guess I seem ungrateful with my teeth sunk in the hand of things I really can't give up just yet. Now I sit up here, the critic, as they introduce some new band, but they seem so much confetti looking at them on my TV set. All the power and the glory, just when you're getting a taste for worship, they start bringing out the hammers and the boards and the nails. Heard it in the wind last night, sounded like applause. Chilly now, end of summer, no more shiny hot nights. It was just the arbutus trees rustling and the bumping of the logs, and the moon swept down black water like an empty spotlight. TGD. Usually, okay, so this is where Joni would talk. I'm going to talk. Anyway, the summer 25 years ago, when I did the Paved Paradise show at Tropical Joe's, which was on Standish Street. I always thought Standish was like, when you see a junkie and they're like, I always thought that was like Standish, like they're standing, but they never go over. It's like, that's Standish. Anyway, I did the late show. Joey Arias did the earlier show. And the producer said, but you have to go out and bark. And as a singer, it's like, both actually and metaphorically, that's a challenging thing to look at, barking, So we tried barking. We went out in the street in our costumes. And it didn't really work. And then the second night we did it, I actually gave Joey a piggyback in heels back to Tropical Joe's. So we didn't really ever get the audience we wanted. And it was a mixed blessing. It was really hard to get people to come one block off of Commercial Street. But it was a great summer. And I'm having major deja vus being here again after... He comes for conversation. I comfort him sometimes. Comfort and consultation. He knows that's what he'll find. bring him apples and cheeses. He brings me songs to play. He sees me when he pleases. I see him in cafes, and I only say hello and turn away before his lady knows how much I wanna see him. She removes him like a ring to wash her hands. She only brings him out to show her friends. I wanna free him. Secrets and sharing soda, that's how our time began. Love is a story told to our friend. It's secondhand, but I listen to his questions. I give my answers when they're found. He says she keeps him guessing, but I know she keeps him down. She speaks in sorry sentences, miraculous repentances. I don't believe her. Tomorrow he will come to me and he'll speak his sorrow endlessly, and he'll ask me why. Why can't I leave her? He comes for conversation. I comfort him sometimes. Comfort and consultation. He knows that's what he'll find. He knows that's what he'll find. Thank you. Okay. There's a man who's been out sailing in a decade full of dreams, and he takes her to a schooner, and he treats her like a queen bearing beads from California with their amber stones and their green. He has called her from the harbor. He has kissed her with his freedom. He has heard her off to starboard through the breaking and the breathing of a forest tree. And she's off somewhere being free. There's a man who's climbed a mountain and he's calling out her name, and he hopes her heart can hear. 3,000 miles he calls again. He can wish her there beside him. He can miss her just the same. He has missed her in the forest. where he showed her all the flowers, and the branches sang the chorus as he climbed the scaly towers of a forest tree, while she was somewhere being free. There's a man who sends her letters, he is waiting for her reply. He has asked her of her travels since the day they said goodbye. He writes, I wish you were beside me, we can make it if we try. He has missed her at the office, with her name on all of his papers. Through the sharing of the profits, he will find it hard to shake her from his memory. And she's so busy being free. There's a lady in the city, and she thinks she loves them all. There's the one who's thinking of her, and there's the one who sometimes calls. There's the one who writes those letters with his facts and figures scrawled. She has brought them to her senses. They have laughed inside her laughter. Now she rallies her defenses, for she fears that one will ask her for eternity. And she's so busy being free. There's a man who sends her medals, he is bleeding from the war. There's a jouster and a jester, and the one who owns a store. There's a drummer and a dreamer, and you know there may be more. She will love them when she sees them. They will lose her if they follow, and she only means to please them. And her heart is full and hollow like a cactus tree. And she's so busy being free, like a cactus tree. She's been free. She's been free. I have one more song, and if you want to sing along during the chorus or whatever, be with us that way. In the best, that is weird, that way. Sing, bitch. Oh, wait, I gotta do this. Okay. The other thing that's going on is that when I would do the Joni Mitchell show, I got all these transcriptions of her interviews, of her pirate recordings, of her raconteurness, and it was staggeringly interesting, and it would go circular and then finally come back. So I guess I'm used to talking in between songs, but since I'm not really in character, I should just shut the fuck up. Rows and flows of angel hair, and ice cream castles in the air, and feather canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's clouds' illusions that I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way you feel when every fairy tale comes real. I've looked at love that way, but now it's just another show. You leave them laughing when you go, and if you care, don't let them know, no, don't give yourself away. I've looked at love from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow it's love's illusions that I recall. I really don't know love at all. Tears and fears and feeling proud to say I love you right out loud. Dreams and schemes and circus crowds, I've looked at life that way. But now old friends are acting strange. They shake their head, they say I've changed. Well, something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. I've looked at life from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow it's life's illusions that I recall. I really don't know life at all. I've looked at life from both sides now, from up and down, and give and take, and win and lose, and still somehow it's life's illusions that I recall. I really don't know life at all. Thank you.
That was amazing.
Thank you, Paul.
So we're going to talk for, I guess, about 15 or 20 minutes and then open it up to you all for questions.
Have the frozen margaritas arrived yet?
We could talk about the first time you ever heard Joni's music and our response to it. How do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I first heard Joni's music in fourth grade. It was introduced to me by my piano teacher who came into the room once a week, rolled the piano through the door, and taught us the songs of the day. But there was something about both sides now that I heard differently from the other music. I was aware that it wasn't singular in terms of its emotion. It was as heartbreaking as it was hopeful. And there was something about knowing, even when I was in fourth grade, that a song could hold two things that made me feel more alive, that made me feel more spacious, even though I didn't have language like that. And that was the first time her work hit me, but it hit me at different points in my youth, and sort of captured me more deeply along the way. What about you?
Me, yeah, growing up in Jersey City.
Two New Jersey boys, different ends of the state though, both sides now.
And thank God for the PATH train. The first stop was Christopher Street, which then was anyway, I had two older sisters. Remember Christopher Street? Yeah, two older sisters, and they had all this music, and that's really where I first heard Joni Mitchell's music. And I'd sit in the basement and listen to this stuff, and Laura Nyro and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. But Joni Mitchell, it opened a portal into poetry, wanderlust, identification of some kind of life beyond what I was being given in Jersey City as a guy, as a boy. And from what I knew, just this utter complexity, but singular communicative power. I'd never heard anything like it. And specifically also her piano music. I'd never been exposed to classical music. So the lyricism of it, especially those piano pieces like Rainy Night House and For Free, that was just this gorgeous world that I knew I needed to be a part of. And it wasn't a gender thing at all. It wasn't the fact that it didn't matter where it came from. It was this chasm that opened up for me and opened up in that direction as well. And the duality, even you talk about both sides now, even that song holding so many things, and Clouds literally holds so many things, but for a 21-year-old to write, she was 21 when she wrote?
21.
To write that song, it's just the amount of wisdom and the layering of potential experience within that 3-minute piece of music.
She didn't think it was any good. There's that tape of her singing that, premiering it on Gene Shade's radio program, and it was just another one of her songs. And it's interesting that it's not. I don't think it's a representative song for all of its oppositions and binaries. It's much more regularized and musically than, say, the songs on Blue or Oh Yeah, Jira. Did you listen to Joni with your friends, or did you? I am basically friends. I had the. I remember the friends I had were, everyone was, I'm thinking of theater and music kids from. I did not share that music with them. It was my own private inner life. Like what changed my experience of her music was Gajira. Even though it's not as expansive musically as For the Roses or piano music, there was something about that wedding of those lyrics to something that felt primal and austere that really struck my psyche.
And I think the fact that she wasn't allowed to the boys' club, or when she was, they were begrudgingly, as you so beautifully wrote about, they're condescending. But also early on, you mentioned something about how the fact that maybe when she wrote Both Sides Now, she wasn't really seeing it as important, which brings me back to one of my favorite quotes, the Martha Graham Blessed Unrest quote, that it's not our job as artists to judge our work, it's our job to get the work out. And if we don't get the work out, that voice will be never, the world will never have that voice. So I love the fact that artists can make things in that way. I think they're so great, and then they can move on to the world and be so profoundly effective.
Yeah, I think she's always been aware of the fact that a listener co-creates her music. I think one of the profundities of the work is that she feels like she's singing directly to us. It's not public music. And I think that comes from a deep awareness of the listener on the other side of the table or on the sofa next to her. And a chord stretched between two beings.
And it's also her manifesting her interior life in these creations. It's such a way into. I mean, so often pop music is never music, but the songs that we would hear on the radio or see on the Ed Sullivan Show or on TV, the Cass Elliot special, or used to maybe certain kind of, especially at that time, certain kind of song,
And I know that singer-songwriter phenomenon, coming out of the Weavers and Bob Dylan and all that, and the fact that the creator could also have their rendition of it be, set in stone. It's like as if Franz Schubert had been, so there's this a singer and there was a recording technology. So that was a whole opening up of that genre. But it's accessibility. I remember seeing her on the Castelli special with her, with her hair hiding her face. And first I was like, oh, she wrote that song. I was like, what's that sound, that strumming sound on that guitar? Because I was playing the guitar in faultless at that point. And Kat, as you will know,
of course. Sons of God here. Well, like not, they get to sit down at the stair. You can sing those songs to each other.
So it's like she broke the mold from the get-go with the completeness of her work. And
I just had a thought that Sons of God vaporized. I'm really so sorry. No. One of the things that thrilled me also in my younger years was the idea of the fact that she could be so many different musical selves. Like there's some correspondence, say, between Court and Smark and the Hissing of Summer Lawns, or the Hissing of Summer Lawns and Futura, but in a lot of ways, it feels like she developed a new mind, a new set of a new palette. I'm not even coming up with what I want to say, but it feels like Joni isn't a singular artist, but someone who's a village of artists, who's 10 artists, 12 artists. So when someone says, I don't like Joni Mitchell, it's like, well, you heard one or two albums you haven't heard.
Yeah. And she talks about it, about us being cultural specialists, people that hate ambiguity, And I also think that the thing that fueled me, that she has that restless sensibility, that curiosity, but also in that industry, both playing the game, I'll give you a hit, all right, you turn me on the radio, that holistic to you. But the game that she was involved with, the boys club, the industry, and luckily she got in when Dave Gettin was sponsoring artists like her and Judy Sill, right? And Lauren Nero and Cher. No, the show, but I was in there. They're all living together. They're them to share with others. Yes, sir. I didn't mean to bring that to on, did I? It's funny,
Yeah, but there was something astonishing about her having the opportunity to be an experimental indie artist, but to do this work under the auspices of a corporate rock world. It is a very fortunate meeting. I often wonder who she would have been if she'd come into music in another time. Would she? And there's something interesting to me about the fact that she does, on a certain level, want to be widely heard. She doesn't want to be marginalized. She wants that work to speak to a large audience. Yet she still wants to do a particular signature.
Yeah. I think she said that if she were right now, she couldn't or wouldn't shake her shit. It's such the game of presentation is so kind of, obvious, and I don't know. I'd say given, but it just seems like a shallow game, I was going to say something else, but okay.
My question came back to me. I put a question to Vapor. I asked, how many times have you seen her perform? Do you know? Like, how many?
Me?
Yeah.
I saw her. I saw when she and Bob Dylan did the concert at Madison Square Garden.
9.8?
Yeah. And then I saw her concert where we went to Trenton or Camden.
Oh, for both sides now.
Yeah, with the orchestra, where she said she would like surfing with the orchestra.
Right.
And she invited me. I had to be like, I didn't realize you're supposed to go see the band before the gig, there's me. We were backstage and they were already gone after the gig. So
But I guess those are the only two times I'd seen her perform. Yeah, so very late.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but once again, enough of it on TV, or not a lot, but enough to. And then, of course, having access to all the recordings, the videos, when technology opened up. But it was a bit of a detective work. I used to play my guitar in a standard thing, but I would like tune one string down, just get that drony sound, which I didn't know where. And then I met Wally Breeze, who had started JoniMitchell.com, this really amazing portal for all of the tuning. And he unfortunately died, but he had set up this thing which made the tunings available. Then you get these Xeroxes of sheets of her music that she had hand drawn out. Yeah, I mean, I think you can find them with her, very, very like, she circles her eyes,
But I think you were one of the first performers who did the tunings. I think a lot of the music before you was replicate, or people attempted to replicate it in standard tuning, and it never felt fully alive or there. And I think those tunings were a way to get deeper into the work.
Yeah. And I mean, I it's endlessly staggered by her. I was listening 2 days ago. I was just listening to Amelia, and I was just very objectively, because if you know her stuff, not that one gets jaded, but but it's so nice to, like, I remember hearing the great British mezzo-soprano Janet Baker. I had never really been able to objectively listen to her, the recordings of her voice, but she was irony where they say, "Oh, that's rather good." It was the radio, and she didn't realize it was herself. So she had one under she projected the witness her work. Why am I saying that?
Saying, does Joni listen to her own work? This just seems to be.
Maybe it wasn't not so much, it was something else. But anyway, talking about the year. Nearly all I was able to wait and say, yeah, in a really new manner way. So, oh my God, that's just functioning so phenomenally on so many different levels at the same time. I remember her telling that story where before Spark was released, and she was, at a party, she had a reel, she brought somebody in the room to play it, and they were just kind of like not having it.
The story goes that I think Dylan was in the room and fell asleep, and that became part of her mythology. But I think there's actually a more complicated story behind it, because Geffen was trying to lure Dylan to his label, and he didn't want to be outstaged by Joni, who was living in his house.
And he was falling asleep with one corner of his body. That actually stopped him. It's so funny, that whole skirmish, but the Joni Dylan thing. It's just it's a bit tired, but I guess it's never going to go away.
I guess not. But yeah, they do seem to be in conversation. I think he has probably taken more direction from her work than has been acknowledged, or he's acknowledged.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all. Thank you.